So I thought I'd show some pickups that I bought recently. First off is this interesting box. Now I buy a lot of stuff from eBay and I tend not to remember what I've bought, and I put a lot of boxes aside and sometimes don't open them for maybe a month or two. So generally when I open them, they are things which I can't remember that I've bought. Sometimes they come in some interesting boxes and containers. This one is a nice kitchen mini skillet. I definitely didn't buy a mini skillet, it's probably something else. Anyway, let's open it up. Nicely packed in some bubble wrap there. So this is a copy of Corpse Killer on the Mega CD. I actually paid £40 for this. I'm guessing I was probably a little bit drunk when I bought this one. I'll be honest with you, it's not a game that I really wanted. It's more a game I bought for curiosity's sake, and I seem to have paid very much over the odds for it. Corpse Killer is quite an interesting one because it was one of the games that was a full motion video game developed by Digital Pictures. It also has some rather racially stereotypical characters in it.
I'll be your taxi. Keep your living man. You wanna get big and hammer cheap like what Arnold got in Hollywood, huh?
Next up, it's an interestingly wrapped, what looks like a reused jiffy bag. And inside there are several small things all wrapped up. First off, there's Star Wars for the 32X. This was a big one in the arcades and it was really popular, so it was really something that Sega thought would sell the 32X. Now if you're quite sharp-eyed, then you might notice that this is the NTSC version, so the North American version of the 32X. I honestly don't know why I bought this. Maybe I was drunk. Anyway, next is Doom, also for the North American 32X. Doom 32X was very much rushed to market, and actually they cut loads of corners. The designer Tom Hall wrote a really kind of elaborate guide in how to put the program together, but during the development phase pretty much all of his work was disregarded and ended up with a really inferior version of the game. I actually first played it on the Sega Saturn, so this is actually going to feel like a much inferior game. Then there's Virtua Fighter for the North American 32X again. Now, I don't own a North American 32X. I really don't know what I was thinking when I bought these. Virtua Fighter is an interesting one because Virtua Fighter 2 actually came out on the Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive, and Virtua Fighter 1 and 2 obviously came out on the Sega Saturn as well. Virtua Fighter is a pretty classic game. I actually preferred the second version of Virtua Fighter, and I had both 1 and 2 on the Sega Saturn, so this 32X version is not going to be up to scratch. Now this is Virtua Racing Deluxe for the 32X. Again, the North American version. I must have had a lot to drink that night when I bought this. Virtua Racing was actually quite a big arcade game. It had loads of ports over to Sega systems. It actually had a port on the Mega Drive, and the way they did it was putting the chip needed to run the game in the cartridge itself. That meant the cartridge was really expensive and it didn't really sell that well. This was developed by Sega's AM2, who did all the really great games like Virtua Cop and some of the Virtua Fighter games, and obviously Daytona and all those sort of games. I'm always quite careful to try and open the packages so that I can reuse the jiffy bags, and as I can see from some of these packages, actually people have also reused the jiffy bags themselves. Now the blue edge might be a bit of a giveaway if you know your games and your consoles. So these two games cost me just £14 together. And as you can see, this is Choo Choo Rocket for the Dreamcast. And unfortunately the case hinge is a bit broken. I'm not sure if I knew about that in the listing. A little bit disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. Everything's in there, instruction manual discs and everything. Choo Choo Rocket is an action puzzle game which was developed by the Sonic team, and a lot of people have told me that this is a must-have on the Dreamcast. And then next up we have Quake 3 Arena. Now I was a massive fan of Unreal and I really love the Unreal Tournament game, but I've never really actually played Quake very much, so this is a really interesting one. I'm going to see how I get on with this. I do love those shooter games, but I'm not quite sure how well it's been translated to the Dreamcast. Next is this very thin and small looking package. I'm going to carefully slice this one open. At this point I kind of gave up on opening it carefully and just cut it open. And there inside is a Game Boy Pocket with the screen very much burnt out there. This is a fairly common problem with Game Boy Pockets. That polarizing filter that makes the screen work actually gets burnt out, and it's a fairly easy thing to replace. This cost me £15, it actually cost me £11, and then there was a £4 postage and package on top. Now the seller in their listing said that this wasn't working, but I'm pretty sure that if I take it apart I can get it working again. Now I'm really a Sega boy, as you can tell from all the games that I bought here. But one thing I really think Nintendo got right was the Game Boy, and I actually really like the version 1 Game Boy. But the Game Boy Pocket is also an awesome development. They took something which was really successful and really brilliant, and they just advanced it a little bit further. It takes less batteries, it lasts longer, it's smaller, and there's just something a little bit perfect about it. I do really love this format, and I do really love the Game Boy. I really hope I can get this one working again. The only thing I really miss from the original Game Boy is those chunky contrast and volume wheels. These ones are a bit spindly and a bit thinner for my liking. Next up is something that looks like it should contain unmarked banknotes. This really looks like a bribe. Maybe it is. I'm going to carefully open this one with the scissors. And inside this makeshift bag is not a ton of cash. It looks like just the insides of a jiffy bag, like a jiffy bag stomach that's in there. Anyway, I'm trying to get that one out right now. And in here we have the game card for Ghost House. Which is a memory card format which was used for the SG-1000 and SC-3000, and of course the Mark III, and of course the very first Master System could read them alongside its normal cartridges. It's a little bit of a shame that the case is a bit frayed at the bottom there. It's really nice that the sellers protected the card from moving around with a bit of bubble wrap, but what's obvious from the card here is that there's no little case that the card comes in, which fits nicely into that box. Ghost House was released in 1986, but it's actually based on a 1982 arcade game, which is called Monster Bash. I've always thought that if you were back in the 1980s, the Sega card is exactly what you think a game format from the future would look like. It's sleek, it's cool, it's the size of a credit card. There's just something very retro futuristic about them. Now I have this one here which is nicely wrapped. Let's see if I can get this open. This also looks like another CD based game. Yep, this is definitely another Dreamcast game. This is Jet Set Radio for the Dreamcast.
Jet Set Radio!
I paid just £6.50 for this. Again, the box is in really good condition. And opening it up shows me that the hinges are all there, the discs are there, and there is the manual, which is actually surprisingly quite thick. I mean, really, do you need all that manual for this game? Do I have to read that? Does this game really involve reading something that's about the size of the New Testament before I can actually play it? And then finally I have this one here, which originally was a package sent to some sort of aerospace company. Which is rather interesting because I actually used to work in the aerospace industry. So anyway, let's open this one up. Now this is something I've been waiting for a long time. This is the game Virtual On. Cyber Troopers. Basically, you're a massive robot beating the crap out of other massive robots on things like oil rigs. I remember I had the demo disc for this, and I always wanted the game and I never had it. It actually hurts to see labels like this at times when you find out that this game was only £10 at one point, but I did just pay £13 for it, so it's not all that bad this time round. When I was a teenager and I saw this game and I played it on demo disc, I thought it was awesome. And the whole idea that I could be this huge robot beating up other huge robots was just amazing. Also sort of reminds me of the film Robo Jocks. This copy of Virtual On doesn't have the instruction manual in there, it's just the disc. Anyway, those are my pickups for the last maybe 2 to 3 months. As you can see, it's mostly Sega stuff. I've got no idea what I'll be doing with those North American 32X cartridges. Should I region mod a 32X, or should I just go and buy a North American 32X? Let's see what happens when both my drinking habit and eBay collide in the near future. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Bye!